Welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. Today, we're focusing on why slow listening is so effective for English learners. Julia, what makes listening to slow, clear English so powerful, especially for beginners?
Great question, Jason. Slow listening gives your brain needed time to process sounds, notice grammar, and recognize familiar words. Just as you wouldn't run before you can walk, starting with slow English helps build a solid foundation for understanding and speaking.
That analogy makes sense. Many learners try to jump into fast-paced movies or news and feel overwhelmed. How does slow listening help overcome that frustration?
When you listen slowly, your brain connects sound and meaning more naturally. For example, instead of translating, "How are you?" every time, you begin to simply understand it. This leads to less stress and greater confidence when you practice speaking.
Let's transition into confidence. Julia, you mentioned slow listening builds confidence. Can you explain how this works in practice?
Absolutely! When you understand what you hear, you feel successful. That sense of achievement encourages you to speak more. Studies have shown that learners who comprehend input, even if it's slow, are more likely to try speaking and less likely to give up.
So, by focusing on understanding, learners actually become more confident speakers over time. Does this confidence help with long-term fluency?
It does. Confidence is the first step toward fluency. When you're not afraid to make mistakes, you practice more, and that steady practice naturally leads to smoother, clearer speech.
Now, let's address a common question. Should learners focus on speaking fast or speaking fluently?
Fluency is more important than speed, hands down. Many think that speaking quickly equals fluency, but that's not true. You can speak slowly and still sound natural and confident, especially if your sentences are clear and accurate.
That's an important distinction. In fact, some native speakers pause and think, which is a natural part of conversation. Can you share why focusing on fluency first is more beneficial for learners?
Definitely. Fluency is about expressing your thoughts smoothly, even if you're not fast. Speed comes with time, but clear communication is always the key goal. It's better to be understood than to rush and make mistakes.
To illustrate, let's shift to a real-life example. We'll role-play a simple, slow English conversation at the park. Julia, how do these role-plays help learners in practical terms?
Role plays provide context and real-world phrases. They allow learners to practice listening and speaking in situations they might encounter, like meeting a friend at the park. Repetition of these scenarios builds speaking muscles and prepares you for actual conversations.
Let's dive in. I'll be Mark, and you'll be Emily. By using slow, clear speech, our listeners can hear each word and phrase distinctly, making it easier to follow along and imitate.
Exactly. After the role play, we'll break down key expressions so listeners can understand and reuse them with confidence.
Now that we've heard the role play, let's break down some useful phrases. Julia, why is it important to focus on phrases instead of just individual words?
Learning full phrases such as, "Do you come here often?" or "That sounds nice," mirrors how native speakers communicate. It's like learning building blocks instead of single bricks phrases help you construct natural-sounding sentences more easily.
That's a great analogy. Can you explain how tag questions, like, "It's a nice day today, isn't it?" are useful in conversation?
Tag questions invite agreement and keep the conversation going smoothly. They're common in English small talk and help you sound more friendly and interactive.
Let's pivot to practical strategies. What are some effective tips for building fluency through slow listening, especially for beginners?
First, listen to the same audio multiple times. Repetition reinforces recognition and understanding. Second, practice shadowing repeat what you hear immediately after the speaker, matching their tone and rhythm. Even 10 minutes a day is impactful.
Are there other techniques you recommend, such as focusing on listening in daily routines?
Absolutely. Make listening a daily habit, even if it's just 15 minutes while walking or cooking. Consistency over time helps your brain absorb patterns and builds automaticity in understanding English.
Let's add variety with another role play this time, a conversation at a cafe. Julia, how does practicing dialogues set in different locations benefit learners?
Using varied settings, like a cafe or park, exposes learners to a wider range of vocabulary and situations. It prepares them for real-life interactions, whether ordering coffee, chatting with friends, or making small talk with strangers.
I'll play Alex, you'll be Mia. As we go through the role play, listeners should pay attention to phrases about ordering, describing preferences, and expressing feelings.
Yes, and after the conversation, we'll highlight practical expressions and suggest how to adapt them to other scenarios.
Now it's time for listeners to get involved. Julia, why is repeating phrases out loud such a powerful exercise for language learners?
Speaking aloud helps reinforce memory and improve pronunciation. When you repeat after native speakers, you train your mouth and ears to produce and recognize natural English sounds, just like athletes practice drills to perfect their movements.
Let's guide our audience through a fluency drill, encouraging them to mimic both the words and the rhythm of our speech. Remember, repetition is key to building confidence and fluency.
Exactly. If you struggle at first, don't worry, rewind and try again. Each repetition brings you closer to speaking naturally and comfortably.
Now for a fun challenge. Julia, how does responding to questions aloud help learners internalize new language skills?
Answering questions out loud forces you to recall and use what you've learned. It also helps overcome shyness and build spontaneous speaking ability, which is crucial for real conversations.
Let's invite our listeners to answer questions based on today's role plays. By speaking out loud, even alone, you're creating valuable practice opportunities.
And if possible, record yourself. Listening back lets you hear your progress and identify areas to improve, making practice more effective and motivating.
As we wrap up, let's talk about consistency. Julia, what's your advice for learners who sometimes feel progress is slow or get discouraged?
Remember, language learning isn't a race, it's a journey. Even 10 or 15 minutes daily adds up over time. Celebrate small wins, stay positive, and make learning enjoyable with podcasts, videos, or speaking with friends.
That's encouraging. Setting small, daily goals like listening to a short podcast or practicing Frzeskin create real momentum.
Absolutely. Be patient with yourself, practice consistently, and trust that every step forward builds your fluency and confidence. We believe in you. Keep going, and you'll see amazing progress.